I want to double that, right? So I know that 2 and t is 10. I just don't know r. That means 2 equals which means r equals 2 raised to the power 1 over t minus 1. Okay? Again, I'm never going to ask you to remember any other formulas like that, but I'm doing this just to illustrate what would go wrong if you were not careful about order of operations. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to put 10. Basically, I'm going to calculate that equation. If I give you a number of years, that equation that I'm going to do is going to calculate at what interest rate you would be doubling it during that time. Each formula in Excel starts with an equal sign. So I'm going to take 2 raised to the power 1 over 10 minus 1. And this says negative 80%. By the way, you could format a cell as percent. And you could add this to that. That obviously doesn't make sense, right? A negative interest of 80% means every year you actually pay the guy who borrows from you the money. You know, what goes wrong? If you double click on any cell that contains the formula, it kind of highlights it like that. And it also shows you the cells to which it refers, if it's in the visible range. What's wrong with this formula? I mean, I basically wrote it that way. See, 2 raised to the power 1 over t minus 1. So why did I get a nonsensical answer? What do you think? Because I didn't think about the order of operations. Now let's find out. There are 3 operations here. There's a raising to the power, there's a division, and there's a subtraction. Which one? And there are no parentheses. So the precedence is on exponentiation. That means 2 will be raised to the power 1 first. Okay? 2 raised to the power 1 is 1. Then division or multiplication. Then I'm going to divide that by 10. That's what A1 is. So 2 over 10 is 0.20. Then I'm going to calculate minus 1. But if I was careful, because I don't want to raise to the power 1. I want to raise to the power 1 over 10. To calculate 1 over 10 first, I have to put that in parentheses, because expression in parentheses are calculated first. Shut up. Now, first the expression in parentheses is going to be calculated. Again, if in a given parenthesis there are multiple expressions, basically it's going to have its own order of operations. So 1 will be divided by 10, which is exactly what I want, 0.1. Then 2 is going to be raised to the power 0.1. Then I'm going to deduct 1. That's precisely what I wanted. It's 5, it's 30, so on and so forth. That's the power of Excel for you. Yes, you can make that calculation in financial calculators, but there are other things you cannot do in financial. Now, when you write formulas, they're going to contain numbers and they're going to contain references. In this case, I have something called A1. As far as Excel is concerned, A1 is what we call a reference, and it says, when you make these calculations, go to the cell that is tagged as A1, grab its value, and use it in the calculation. That's what a reference is. There are two and a half types of references. One is called an absolute reference. That means if I copy and paste that formula somewhere, the reference to A1 is not going to change. Let's do something like this. You can copy a formula. You can either copy and go somewhere and paste this. Go somewhere and paste this. As you can see, the formula changed to A2. Because that is not an absolute reference. That is what we call relative reference. When you copy and paste formulas, it shifts the location of the references exactly by how much you shifted that formula. In this case, I shifted everything one row down. So all the references are going to be one row down. If I put it here, two rows down. But that's not always what you want. If you want to make it absolute reference, let me get rid of these. There are minimum two ways of doing it. One, if you have function keys on your computer, just when you clicked on that reference, hit F4. It made, oops. As you can see, it put $1 in front of the A and $1 in front of the 1. Those dollars mean something. The first dollar says, when you copy and paste this formula, fix the reference to the column. The second one means fix the reference to the row. Both of them are there, that is an absolute reference. And I'm going to show you kind of in between ones as well. Now, it doesn't matter where I paste it. It's still referring to A1. If you don't have a function key on your computer, just manually type dollars before the column and the row reference. No numbers. An alternative way to make them fixed is to actually name a given cell or a range of cells. The only importance of A1 is Excel refers to that cell, which is first row, first column, as A1. It's a name. Its name is Sally, right? But if I call them Sal, and we all know that Sal was referring to him, it's different. Sal refers to him, Sally refers to him. As long as you make that connection known. So Sal is equal to Sally. So on this cell, I'm going to go to the formula bar. there's this little box over here. If you kind of hover on top of it, it's going to tell you that it's a name box. That's literally what that is. It's a box where you can use to name a given cell or a range of cells. So I'm going to click. You can write a name that has to obey two rules. One, it has to be one contiguous set of characters. You can't leave blanks. And two, it cannot be a name for which Excel has property rights. You cannot call it A235. Because Excel already has the E1. You cannot call that beta because there's a function called beta or law or something like that. I tend to write descriptive stuff. This is the required rate to double. Now, if I write a formula that refers to that one, it actually goes to the formula that. Or if you don't remember where it is, actually you do need to remember where it is. That is another absolute reference. Okay? Good thing about naming, by default, they're known throughout the spreadsheet, throughout the workbook. You can even make these names that's specific to a given worksheet. So I'm 20 sheets deep. I have no idea where I put that required rate, okay? I mean, it's one of my inputs, but it's 20 sheets somewhere. I don't have to remember it. All I have to remember is, what did I call it? That's all I have to remember. When I'm writing a formula, I'm just going to call it, this is the required rate to double, or whatever name I gave it. And you can actually change those under formulas. There's a thing called Name Manager. Pick the name and hit edit. And you can change the scope. But also, you can also change that it refers to here. I don't know why it doesn't let me change the scope.